Okay, wonderful. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you very much for being here, sharing this wonderful space in this interview that I'm going to do to a very special light worker. Her name is Annie Bourke, and she has a tremendous gift to share with us. Hello, Annie, how are you?
Great, thank you. And thank you for inviting me to be your guest today.
Wonderful, Annie. So, would you like to share a little bit, please? What's your mission? What's your talents, and how you're helping others, please?
Okay, lots of questions there. So, for those of you who haven't met me yet, I call myself an animal human relationship enricher. So, I'm a telepathic animal communicator and an animal medium, which means I have conversations with animals who are living and animals in spirit. So, because I can do that, I can help animal parents because I can connect with their living animal and find out what's happening with them. But I can also connect with their animal who's passed over. And a lot of my work now is supporting grieving animal parents because a lot of them have unanswered questions for their animals. And I can ask the animals their questions, which can give clarity and peace of mind. So, that's a big part of what I do. I also mentor animal parents and people who are professionals in pet industries to master telepathic conversations themselves so then they can talk to their own animals or their clients. And again, that's living and in spirit. So, telepathic communication is how animals talk to each other, whether they're domestic or wild. And so, once you can do that with your own animals, then you can communicate with any animal, domestic or wild. So, my mission, I've got a few. My big mission is to raise global awareness of the importance of animals. So, I want people to understand that animals have souls. They understand everything that we say, which shocks some people. They're not aware that their animals are listening and understanding all the conversations. And there is a purpose that our animals are with us. And now, as more people are spiritually waking up, they're asking more spiritually based questions in animal conversations. So they want to know their animal's purpose being in their life. What are the spiritual lessons they're here to learn? Or have they had past lives together? And that's something that animals have been sharing more and more. And some people do feel a very strong bond with a particular animal, and they may not know why. And when I have a conversation, that animal may have been their child in a past life, a human child. It may have even been a partner. But on a soul level, people feel this profound connection to an animal and they don't know why. But the language is fascinating because they describe their animal as their soul animal, like their soul dog or their heart dog or their soul horse. So subconsciously, they can feel that powerful soul and heart connection, but they're not sure why they're feeling it. And when we understand that they've had multiple lifetimes together, then it explains why you feel so closely connected to them in this lifetime. So that's on one level, and that's a big ask, raising global awareness about the importance of animals, because unfortunately at the moment, a lot of countries haven't legislated that animals are sentient beings, which means they're not as well protected by welfare laws. So that's a big volume of work to be done at an international level for countries to recognise that and to legislate that. My other big goal is to open an animal sanctuary for rescue animals and have people to come and stay on retreats so that they can learn animal communication and also learn energetic healing. So the animals will benefit from them learning as students, and the students will benefit mastering those skills as well. So lots of different strands for me to work through with my mission, but that's what I'm here to do.
Thank you for sharing this wonderful mission, which is absolutely um, it has become of extreme importance lately, right? Raising our awareness. And could you please share how has mastering animal communication changed your life?
Yes, so a lot of people are still very skeptical that I can actually do what I do. I've always felt that my animals could understand me, and I actually used to say to them, I wish I could speak cat, because I could tell from their eyes and their faces that they were understanding me, and I wanted to understand what they wanted to say back. So now that I've learnt, and I've been doing this now for over 14 years, it's totally changed my understanding about animals and their wisdom, but also about reality and life after life. Because the most amazing concept they've taught me is about reincarnation. And I had no idea that animal souls could reincarnate till one of my cats let me experience it. And it was really interesting because she was one of my animal communication teachers, and she could have chosen to keep teaching me from the other side, but she knew how powerful it was going to be for me to personally experience what it was like to have to say goodbye to her and then to welcome her back in a new body to the family. And it is the most surreal experience having your animal's soul back in a different body, because they know you, they know the other animals in the house, they know everything about how the household runs, where to go to eat, where to sleep. And it's as though they've just been away on this big holiday. They've had a complete body makeover and they're back. Now, sometimes they look very identical. Sometimes they're completely different. Sometimes they come back as a completely different species. But just to know that they're back, you feel that so powerfully on a heart level and a soul level. And so many grieving parents say, please tell my animal how much I'd give to hug them one more time. And suddenly they're back, and you've got another whole lifetime to love them and hug them. And that is just phenomenal. So that's really deepened how I can support people now, because they keep teaching me, animals keep teaching me all these concepts. And once I understand them, then I can write about them and then I can let people know about them. And that really helps parents, whether they've got a living animal with a behavioural issue or a health issue, or whether it's an animal in spirit and they don't know why they passed away or if they're coming back again. So I've now given up my government job, and this is my purpose, and this is my business now, is communicating with animals and mentoring people so that they can communicate with animals. So 14 years ago, I knew nothing about what I know now, and it is just awe-inspiring what our animals know. Like, they understand why we're here, what our purpose is, what our lessons are, and why they're here to help us. And they can explain all of that. They can explain the details of the past lives we've had together. One of my cats, when I first got him, I just knew he was very special, but this was before I was an animal communicator. And it turned out that we've shared lives in ancient Egypt. So our souls were together thousands of years ago. And he's had human lifetimes with me and he's had cat lifetimes with me. And that explained why I felt this incredible bond with him. And just so wise. And I've discovered too that people who are doing spiritual work, whether it's healing or teaching or whatever it is, animals can come to you to help you with that work. So they may have been healers in their previous human lives, so they can help you with your work. I do a lot of work with crystals, and my animals understand crystals. I make up big crystal grids on my floor to help clients, human and animals, and my cats come and help activate the crystals. And move them around subtly in the grids if they think they need to be in a different position to amplify the energy. So they're still teaching me, like I make them, but they come in and make these adjustments and they explain what they're doing and why. So for people whose animals are here to be teachers, once you can communicate with them telepathically, then they can start teaching you. So again, my cats have helped me to write my books, and they've dictated sections of my book. So my red boy that you can see over my shoulder actually wrote the last chapter of my most recent book. And another cat wrote the introduction. Now, it sounds really weird to say your cat's helped you write your book, but I've met someone else and her cats have done exactly the same thing. They just channel the information, they transmit it to you. They know how important it is to get messages out to help activate people now that they're waking up. And they've been teaching humans for so many years, and they're just walking repositories of wisdom, which they're happy to share with us. So once we can connect with them, then they can start sharing that wisdom. So it's a long-winded answer to your question, but it's just on so many levels that they've changed my life. And that's what I'm committed to now, is to helping more animals and their humans, and helping make that global impact to improve circumstances for animals.
Mhm. And would you like to share an impactful story related with uh, some people you helped related with their animals?
Yeah, sure. I've got lots of stories, but I'll just share one, which is a common story when I get contacted by grieving animal parents who don't know why their animal passed away. Sometimes they're not there when their animal passes away and they don't get a chance to say goodbye. But this family were there when their animal passed away, and sadly, they'd lost a sister dog only a few months before. She was a lot older, so her death was more expected, but this was a young dog who just suddenly passed away. So losing two beloved animals in a short space of time was just a real shock. Anyway, I spoke to this boy dog and he explained medically what had happened, because they'd done an autopsy and didn't know why he'd passed away. So the family was still looking for answers. But animals do have good medical knowledge. And so the dog was able to explain what had actually happened. So that answered Dad's question about that. And then he also answered Dad's question about reincarnation. And he told us that he was coming back as a female Samoyed dog. Now, often they do come back as a different gender, not by choice, but because that's a body that's available for them to come back quickly to their family. So Dad and the family had to start looking around for rescue Samoyeds, and they couldn't find any locally. So I suggested they may have to look for Samoyed rescue organisations, and they ended up finding one in California. And it was hilarious because the boy dog who passed away actually came from California, and the family had lived there, and then they'd moved to the middle of America. So here's this dog now in California, and the only way that they could adopt the female dog was to actually go to California and do a meet and greet, because it was an out of state adoption. That was the rules of the adoption company. They had to do a meet and greet. So Dad had to fly to California, hire a car, go to this rescue agency. And when he walked in, this dog just came flying around the corner and jumped up at him and kissed him. And the rescue agency had never seen a reaction like that before. And Dad had taken some of his boy dog's favourite toys, and the girl started playing with them straight away. Now, interestingly, she's not a Samoyed at all. She was called a Samoyed, and she was smart enough to know that that's what she was being labelled as, so that the family would find her. But she's almost identical to what she looked like as a boy, lies in the same places. And some of the photos I've got, you can't tell who is who. They just look so similar, but very similar behaviours. And that's what we find, that sometimes a lot of their personality comes through the next lifetime around, and sometimes they're different, because they've taught me it's a soul aspect that comes back. So it's not 100% the same. There's an aspect of the soul they've taught me that stays on the other side, and they can communicate with that aspect. And that's how I understand, when animals tell me about the other lifetimes they've had with their humans, that they can connect with that aspect, who then connects with all the other aspects of souls having simultaneous lifetimes, and they can give me that information. So this family had been in such incredible grief, losing two dogs within 5 months of each other, but now they've got their boy dog back with them and they're extremely happy. The girl dog who'd passed away beforehand has also reincarnated and come back to them. So they've got both of them back again in new bodies. And their third dog, who had known the boy dog, has now got the boy dog back as her sister instead of her brother. So it's a change for the existing animals as well. When an animal comes back, whether they're the same gender or not, they're in a new body. They smell different and they rely very heavily on scent to recognize them, and they speak with a different voice. So it normally takes about 48 hours for the animals to work out who's who and to reintegrate. And then it's all just back to happy families. Sometimes the new animal coming back in was the oldest animal, and they might think that they're the top of the pile and, the king of the hierarchy, and they come in as the youngest one, but they might think they're still the boss and everyone else has to listen to them. So it's absolutely fascinating watching out how they work out the dynamics of the relationships. Uh, but it's just incredible that they can come back and have another lifetime with us. And that makes so much difference for your existing animals who may be grieving, but also for you and your family, knowing that you've got your beloved animal back again. That is such a wonderful gift.
Yes, I've been living in Brazil for 13 years, and my wife is working as a vet, and she observes something quite frequent here, and it seems like a worldwide trend, which is people are used to instead of choosing to have children, they choose to adopt animals, and so much so that they humanize animals. For instance, they put their dogs on little niches, like if they were babies, or they start to put different clothes or even shoes. What's your recommendation for those people who are humanizing their animals?
Look, I think I understand for a lot of people, they do treat their animals as part of the family. So some people very definitely identify as pet parent or animal parent, which is a phrase I use. Some people say, no, they're not my children, but they're an important part of my family. I think shoes are very important, especially in Australia here when we have very hot weather, and dogs can burn their feet on the concrete bar paths and the bitumen roads. And so people do go out and buy shoes for them so they can still go and exercise, but not be damaging their feet. I've seen some of my clients wearing jackets and wearing protective leggings and shoes to be walking in the snow, again, so they're not freezing themselves when they're getting their exercise. So I think when they're getting outfits to help keep them safe with weather variations, I think that's a brilliant idea because animals love being out in the fresh air and sniffing everything and meeting up with their other animal friends, plus getting the exercise, plus knowing the human is getting exercise and also getting interactions with other people. So it's socially very important for the parents to be out as well as the animals. So, um, yeah, so I think there is a role for, safety garments for animals. Some people get raincoats for them so they're protected if they're taking them out in the wet weather. So, I know there's a range of things that you can buy for your animals, and some people do dress them up and they give them tiaras and necklaces and all that kind of stuff for like fashion photos. And if the animals tolerate it, or, like Christmas decorations where people want to put little rings of colour around their neck for their family Christmas photos, if the animals don't like it, they're not going to have it on them for very long. So, uh, but yeah, I think there is a place for safety equipment for animals.
And for some people who, something that my wife observed in some animals is that they, many cases, they have different diseases related with the issue that is affecting the owner. What's your experience about this, and what's your message that you can share about this?
Brilliant question. I've actually experienced that personally with two of my cats. So, for people listening, this may be something very new to you, but from conversations I've had with a number of animals, they can choose to take on some of their humans' health issues, not because we ask them to, but because they want to be of service for us and they don't want us bearing the full brunt of the condition. So I actually went on a book writer's retreat to write my first two books, and my lovely red boy behind me knew it was very important for me to write the books and get the messages out in the world. I got a very severe chest infection just before I was due to go. couple of days later, he's got a chest infection. Now, he can't catch it from me. He's an indoor cat. The other cats were fine. He hadn't been anywhere to pick it up. So, energetically, he was taking on some of those symptoms for me so that I would get better quicker, so that I could go and write the books and not be overwhelmed by illness. And now, when animals have different symptoms, when people ask me what's going on, I say, who else in the household has the same symptoms? Because it's just uncanny that they can do this for us and we're not aware that they're doing it. So we have to thank them for doing it because they're trying to help us, but we also have to explain that it's actually making us more stressed, worrying about what's happening with them, and that we need them to stop and that we are getting help and we will get better. But yes, that's not uncommon.
So this is valid for dogs, but also for cats, right?
Oh,
That are on the same
absolutely.
energetic
Yes.
level.
Yeah. I've spoken to a little dog who was actually taking on health symptoms for her human mum and her human mum's mum. And because she was such a little dog, it actually got overwhelming for her. She took on too much, so she actually got extremely ill. So we had to have conversations with her, and she and her human mum had to negotiate to both look after themselves so that they could get better, so that the dog didn't have to be so sick. And they ended up sorting that out, and the dog got better, and mum got better.
Full.
But animals are
Wonderful.
very tuned in to our moods as well. So, one dog I spoke with years and years ago had completely changed his behavior. He used to be very affectionate and he got to being very snappy and not his normal self at all. And they thought he was depressed. And so he got put on medication to help with depression. And when I spoke with him, it was his human mum who was depressed. She'd actually lost three close friends. They'd passed away in quick succession, and she was just overwhelmed with grief. And so, as part of her coping mechanism, she wasn't interacting with the dog as much, not talking with him as much, not going out for walks, not doing our normal activities. So the dog got very upset with her behaviour and knew she was upset and had to change his behaviour so that something would get done, that someone would notice that things were not okay. So once mum acknowledged that, yes, he was telling the truth, she had been affected by all this grief, she got help. And then the dog could get safely weaned off the medication, and they're both happy again. So it's just fascinating when you dig in. I'm not a vet, I'm not a diagnostician, I'm not an animal behaviourist, but I can actually ask, why are you doing this behaviour and what can be done to help you? So I'm not saying that animals don't need to be on medication, lots of them do, but it's finding out what is causing certain issues. And because they've got such good medical knowledge, they often tell me what they want as treatment. So I'll find out that a horse has got a musculoskeletal problem with their pelvis, and they'll tell me they want A, B, and C as the treatment options to help them. So they just know, and I don't know how they know, but they know. So I just pass the information on because that's what I'm here to do, is just pass the message from the animal to the human. But it's just intriguing how much they do know. And they also let
Wonderful.
me feel what they're feeling as well. So the horse with the pelvic problem, I said, can you let me feel in my body what you're feeling? So then I could pinpoint where they were actually getting the problem, which just helps explain it to the parents then so they understand what's happening and the severity. Or it may be grief. I've spoken to a number of animals who have been grieving for years for the loss of an animal family member, and no one knows. They can't see that from the outside, but they let me feel the intensity of that grief, and I cry. Like, it's just overwhelming with some of them. Again, I'm in awe because I'm a total stranger. They've never spoken to me. Here's this weird human suddenly talking animal to them and asking these questions, and they just tell me what's happening. And so, again, I can pass that on. There are modalities to help animals with emotional issues. So it's kind of thinking holistically, how can we best support animals so they can fulfill their lives?
So that's very, very, very insightful. And there are in today's world, there are many people using animals as a good, as a resource, but actually they are beings. So that's why the many people buying animals. What's your recommendation for those people who are deciding to adopt an animal or for those who want to purchase an animal? What's your recommendation for that?
Look, I think there's, different approaches to that. For me, talking with animals when they're reincarnating, some of them will deliberately come back as a rescue animal because they know that's who their humans are more likely to want to adopt. Some of them come back as a purebred animal from a breeder, and they may have been that same breed before, and they may deliberately choose to come back in a body that's going to be born with that breeder that their owners have known. So I know there's so many animals that are being surrendered all the time, and that there's this huge demand for people to adopt, not shop, which is the phrase. But I think if they're ethically bred animals and your animal chooses to come back in one of them, then that's just something I just tell people whatever the animal tells me. And they'll either say they're going to be in a rescue organisation, sometimes they tell me a specific one, or they might say that you'll find me at a breeder in 3 months' time. And so that's their choice about which body they come back in, and I pass that information on.
Mhm. And there are many critical situations in which we have an animal that is very ill, and we want to get attached to this animal instead of letting them to follow the natural course. For instance, we try to get them to the vet when they're suffering cancer or things like that. What's your recommendation for those people to do with these animals?
That's another lot of conversations I have about end of life decisions, and animals have opinions about that as well. So some of them know it's close to their time to transition, and so they know if they need assistance passing over. Sometimes they just can't pass over on their own, and so they're very grateful when their humans get help for them. And I know that's really hard for the humans because you just feel as though you're responsible for ending your animal's life. I've never spoken to an animal who's been upset with the decisions their humans have made. And that's a really common question I get asked is, are they still mad at me? Did I do the right thing? Did I make the right decision? People are dealing with this sort of regret and remorse as well as the grief. And that just makes the grief worse because you've got all these other emotions compounding it. Uh, Sometimes the animals stay longer than they really should because they want to just maximize every day they can with us. And so every day that they can stay with us, they see as a gift for them. So sometimes they'll tell me that they're not quite ready. I spoke to a dog recently and he said, "My heart's not ready to leave your heart yet." That was his message to his mum. So even though he knows that his health is declining and his mum can see his health is declining, he wants to stay a little bit longer, and she's happy to keep supporting him as long as he wants to be here. So sometimes we can ask them to show us a sign when they're ready to pass. We need to let them know we don't just want them staying for us and to keep us happy. Like if they're hiding a lot of pain and discomfort for our sake, that's not really fair that they're doing that. So we have to explain that we're happy to look after them as long as they want to be here. But when it's their time to go, they need to let us know so that we can help them with that. And like some of them want to pass at home, some of them are happy to go to a vet's uh, business somewhere. Some of them want to be outside in a garden, and then they have opinions about what happens afterwards. Like, do they want to be cremated? Do they want to be buried? Do they want something in their funeral urn that means something significant for them? Do they want particular flowers around their graveside? What do they want as memorials? So they're all questions that I can ask as well, which again, when you're caught up in the emotional phase of getting ready to say goodbye can just give you some clarity when you know what your animal wants, and then you can honor their choices as well.
Wow, this is really important. I was wondering, what do, according to your experience, what do animals want from us as humankind, according to the world we have built so far? Do they want us to be the same, to behave the same as we have behaved so far? Or do they want us to raise our consciousness?
Absolutely raising the consciousness. And that's particularly what my boy cat wrote about in the last chapter of my recent book. He told me things he'd never told me before. But one of the things he said is animals are here to help raise our consciousness and they can help fast track that. So when we can talk to them, we can get the messages from them, we can get the activations. That helps us expand. Some of our animals are very evolved beings, and people think that animals are kind of a lower on the consciousness scale than humans, but from my conversations, that is not the truth. Some of these animals have had many more lifetimes than I have, and the things that they know from those experiences, whether they've been animals, whether they've been humans, whether they've come from other planets, there's all sorts of things that they can tell us to help us manage in our lifetime now. And when we can communicate with them, then they can teach us. So they're very committed to us achieving our life missions and our soul lessons. So some of them are deliberately with us to help us with that. And I've had a number of clients where their same animal soul aspect has been with them in 3 successive bodies in this lifetime to continue that work. So I believe we must have signed very long soul contracts with them way back when, that they keep coming back. So some of these animals have had multiple lifetimes with us in the past as humans and animals, and have had multiple lifetimes with us in this lifetime, and no doubt will continue to have lifetimes with us in the future. So yes, they're absolutely committed to seeing us evolve. They're also here to help our hearts evolve, which is an integral part of our soul evolution. And for a lot of people on their own, interacting with their animal is the only way that they're going to experience love and unconditional love. So it's a very important role that our animals play. And some of the animals come to us so they can experience being loved. And one of my cats, when I first got her, she was very aloof, which is very unusual for the breed. Her brother was an absolute lap cat. And her mission was to learn how to give and receive love. And she did that. And I used to say to her, I absolutely love you and adore you, and I hope that you can accept that love from me. Now that she's reincarnated and back again, she's integrated that lesson, and animals can remember their lessons from the last lifetime. So she now deliberately comes up and kisses me like I know what my lesson was and I've learned it. So, yes, they're just so wise with how they can help us. And business things, you can ask them for advice and they can tell you what you need to do. Like the world is your oyster with how you can utilize their wisdom to help you, whether it's, things to do with your personal life or your business life or anything else. You can just ask questions and they're very pragmatic, they're very constructive. They don't criticize, they don't judge your hairstyle or your clothes choice or your choice of partner. They're here to help support you and for you to achieve. And it's all very positive how they encourage you.
Wonderful, Annie. And how are you planning to leave a legacy for future generations of animal lovers and pet parents?
Yes, big question, because I can't train everyone in the world how to be an animal communicator, even though I'd like to. But there are other people doing similar work. What I want to do is to help support as many animal parents as I can to master telepathic communication so that they can develop much deeper bonds with their own animals, because I know how life-changing it's been for me to be able to talk with my animals. And if more people learn how to talk with their animals, it's going to change their animals' world and experience. It's going to change that human's world and experience as well. Obviously, doing things like being interviewed for podcasts is helping to get my message out as well, to help people totally rethink when they look at their animal. And what I'd love people to do who listen to your interview today is to go out to their animals when the session's over and just look at them eye to eye and say, I love you and I'm grateful that you're with me. Now, your animals know that you love them, but to hear you saying those high frequency words really is empowering for them. And I've had people tell me it's changed their whole interaction with their animal, just having that one conversation. And animals do love it when we know they understand what we're saying verbally. Even if we can't talk to them telepathically, they can at least understand what we're saying. And they love knowing what we're doing. One of my cats said to me, I just want to be involved. Like they want to know what you're up to. And particularly if you've got an animal who has separation anxiety, if you can just tell them verbally, I'm going out to the shops, I'm going to buy dog food and treats, I'll be back in 2 hours. They understand the concept of time and they've heard you saying that you're coming back. Some of our rescue animals are still dealing with abandonment issues. So every time you walk out the door, they panic that they may never see you again and who's going to look after them. So if they hear you reassuring them that you're definitely coming back, that can really cut through the anxiety. So just talking to them verbally more than you do now will really help your relationship with your animal. In addition to all of that, I've published my 3 books. I've written parts 1 and 2 of my Bridging Animal Consciousness trilogy, which again is part of my purpose so that people understand more about why our animals are with us. And then my other book is Evolving Hearts and Souls, The Guide to Spiritual Awakening. Because when I woke up, I didn't know I was waking up. I didn't know you could wake up, and I couldn't find anyone to explain to me why all this weird stuff was happening. So these are all books that will help activate you with communication and with your spiritual development. And they're available directly from me. I've got a special on at the moment that you're welcome to contact me about. I'm selling any 3 for the price of 2 plus postage, and they make great gifts for pet parents as well. I also offer free masterclasses for pet parents every month. So that's another way that I'm leaving a legacy with, sharing the wisdom from animals with people around the world. I speak at summits. So any opportunity I can get to talk to people to help them understand that their pet is not just a pet and that there is a greater meaning for them being with them, that is part of what I'm here to do as well. And just seeing how people respond with their animals once they have had a conversation, it just changes everything. And yeah, seeing that love deepen is just so rewarding.
This is so wonderful. So, for those people who want to get a notion on how they can start to interact more on a consciousness on a higher consciousness level with their animals, they should participate in your masterclass or in
That
your group,
that's
right?
the easiest ways to just attend there once a month for an hour. I do have a private Facebook group which people can join and get some more information through that. And then I can provide people with information if they want to book a conversation with their animal, whether they're living or in spirit, or if they want to find out more about the mentorship program, I can send them information about that as well. But it's just, yeah, I need people to know that animals have souls, and I need people to be open to the fact that animals can communicate so that they don't block themselves energetically. But it's just incredible getting messages from animals and finding out what they want you to know.
Thank you, Annie. This is so wonderful to I could keep asking and asking more questions, but I feel this is enough for now. And for those
Hmm.
people who want to get in touch with Annie, please reach out to her in the information that we share in the comments below. Thank you very much, Annie, for being here with us.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone who listens and watches this.
Wonderful.